Hold on, Steph, also we said that this is for the session, continuance, that you have a separate report, which is, Friday, so, you know, we might try to short time.
Son las 5.
I'd like to call the regular meeting of Cobre Board of Education into session. It is 5 o'clock. Please let the minutes show that Mr. Holguin is not here. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, is the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
I was just checking this.
Entertain a motion for approval of agenda items.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
Second.
Second by
Receiving a call from work.
Mr. Cordova.
Receiving a call
Any
from
corrections to the agenda? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for approval of minutes of June 24th.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cordova. Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Any corrections to a minute? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of June 29th.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cordova. Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Any corrections to the minutes? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Move to item 2. Approval of the yearly legal notice. Do you have anything to say on that, Joyce? I'm sorry, Ms. Barrela. None? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cordova. This is just a yearly thing that we need to do every year. Approve a legal notice of our meetings. Any other comments?
I had a question. In the part of the request for presentation to the board, it says they have 5 days to submit it to 5 days before the meeting date. And it doesn't list anything as to whether it will be approved, or the criteria to approve it, or is it automatically good, are they all going to be approved? That would be my hope.
But if they're submitted within time, they should be.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Yes, also, in the request for the formal hearing, there's one part in the first sentence after number 4, the bullet number 4. It says the board will, at its next regular meeting, determine whether or not the matter is to be presented and discussed within the jurisdiction, and as to whether it is an issue of real consequence. That's kind of arbitrary.
I couldn't answer that one way or another, but that's the way all the legal notices for school boards are across the state. They have that section in there, so I don't know. That's something that I could probably check with Joe Gillian and find out.
Okay, 'cause to me, that's my reservation, and so I would like to amend the motion so that you could get further clarification on that particular phrase.
The only thing that I say is that we need to approve this to continue the school year.
No, I understand. I just said, we approve it contingent on a discussion as to whether that phrase is appropriate or not, or there's alternative phrase. I'm not opposing the legal notice itself. I'm just wanting a little bit more clarification on the issue of real consequence, because that seems to be arbitrary.
Amend the motion.
You can go ahead with it, can't we? And then come back and discuss it. I'm not
Okay.
wants to.
Any other comments?
If I may be of assistance to the board, if I could recognize I'm an attorney, what that usually means is it involves money.
And who are you?
I'm Bill Bradford, Chair of Corporation. It usually means if it involves money or personnel. That's what real consequence means as a legal term of art. So, if that's of any assistance.
He's our Attorney General.
The legal notice of our meetings doesn't involve any money. This just clarifies that we're meeting such day at such time.
Then it's probably just precatory language that's not really of any legal significance.
Okay. Any other comments? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item B, approval of our yearly open meetings resolution. Call for motion.
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Any comments? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 3, update on unfinished business.
Mr. President, at a previous meeting, the board had tasked Terry with finding out some additional information on the superintendent search. So Terry can't be with us in person, but she is on Google Meet. So, Terry?
I'm here.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. President, members of the board. So when you tasked me to check into whether there were other companies, whether there were other issues as far as procurement, to contract with the individuals that were offering or had done a presentation about doing a superintendent search. So basically what I found out is there are 5 independent contractors that are approved by the New Mexico School Boards Association. They are retired superintendents that assist the School Boards Association with offering school districts with that kind of search engine. So you have Dr. Prather, who did the presentation. You have Mr. Shirley, who is joining him. So those are 2 of the 5. There's Linda Paul, Tom Sullivan, and Gloria Rendon. So they all do relatively the same type of assistance with searches. Dr. Paul has other commitments, and she will not be bidding or submitting a proposal. Tom Sullivan has not been contacted. I just barely got his name last week, and Gloria Rendon has not been doing search assistance. So basically, because the proposal was right in the neighborhood of $10,000, it does not violate procurement to select one of the independent contractors. It would have to be 3 formal quotes between 20,000 and 60,000, and formal bidding at 60,000 and above. So the decision, of course, is for the board to make as to whether they will continue with a company. One of the some of the information that I received from Mr. Shirley is that currently we are out of cycle as far as being able to do a superintendent search, because basically there are 33 districts that are in need of a superintendent currently. So many of the consultants may be already tied up. But that would be for the board to decide as far as whether they wanted to proceed with Dr. Prather and Mr. Shirley. They were offering to provide a combined service for the $10,000. The other thing is that because we have a board election coming up in November, the recommendation is that a permanent search should be conducted after the full board has been elected. And that's all the information that I have.
Mr. President, could she repeat the recommendation? I didn't really get what she said.
Could you repeat that, Terry, the recommendation that Dr. Praver said?
The recommendation is that the permanent superintendent search should be conducted after the board elections happen. Because if you're right in the middle in November of a search, you're gonna have new input. And if you're already paying $10,000, you may end up being stalled on your search, and then you have to continue further, so you may end up paying more money than the $10,000.
Okay.
I have a comment, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
In providing us alternatives, it seems like we're getting conclusions rather than options. We're not seeing any documentation of the people that are being considered as to their histories, their records, their interests. We're not getting any documentation that really relates to when they could start, and if we're looking at trying to get this done before the elections rather than after, that would be something that would be nice to know, that option is available. Right now, what I've seen is a recommendation that predetermines what we're supposed to decide. And I would hope that that's not a practice that we continue on. It's been clear in all the meetings prior to this, leading to a search committee, that there's been a preference, and it continues to prevail. We really need to see what was recommended, which was proposals by contractors, not eliminating contractors because we think they may not want to do it, but proposals by those that exist. And having one person say that waiting till after the elections would be prudent because it might increase our cost, I would beg to differ, adamantly differ. It is more important for us to make a decision that would solidify a superintendent and put them on course for the rest of the year, rather than having somebody that doesn't know whether they're going to be the superintendent or not. I think it requires us to be diligent, and more so than we were in the preliminary part, where the advertisement came in several weeks after the resignation was announced. We have no more reason to drag it out like we're looking like we're going to do.
But like she said, we're in the middle of a cycle that most of the superintendents are either already have a job or are gonna be looking, well, they have a job right now and are gonna be looking come January. That's why I say we're in the middle of a cycle
There,
right now.
there is almost no cause to believe that somebody in January is gonna become open, to take another position when they're in one already. And if they are in one already, they have to wait till June to resign that position, to fully, finish their contract.
Well, some of them don't. Well, I don't know. Some of them don't, and some of them are in the end of their contract, and they'll start looking in January is when they start looking. So, like I say, right now, we're in the middle of a cycle that, for superintendent. Right now, there's 33 vacancy superintendent positions in the state of New Mexico. So, and they're not being filled right now until the middle of, in January, which is the end of the cycle, is what they call it. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. President, this is Terry. What I presented is only what the information that was given to me. We only have the one proposal from Dr. Prather. The board is welcome to contact the others through the New Mexico School Boards Association, to see if they are interested in submitting any proposals. The recommendation that was provided to me by a former superintendent, that has gone through these search processes before. It is not set in stone. It is only what I'm communicating what was communicated to me, and that's it. I don't have an opinion one way or the other, and it's not up to me to decide whether or not you move forward or not. And with that, I need to, since I'm out of town, if there's no other questions for me, I will sign off.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I know you guys will probably check the qualifications of them and everything, the superintendents, but are you guys gonna also look into seeing what they've done, like say if they've been in other school districts, to see what they've done and like help like special programs and things like that, or other things like that? Because I mean, yeah, it's nice the qualifications and all that other things, and if they've been there for a long time, but I mean, I'm sorry, some of them come in and it's just, they kind of do what they want, and they don't need to, they need to also help out other like programs and, things
Well,
like that, get
if-
it going. And
Once we decide on who's gonna do the search for us, those are some of the things that we need to specify. This is what we want for that. And there should be a committee set up at that point that community members, staff, and all of those together to see what type of qualifications we want in a superintendent. So that will be something that'll come up once we decide which way we're going to go.
I got one more online. George Seattle.
Okay. George?
Yes, well, good afternoon, Mr. Board President, board members. I guess what I should have done was maybe jump in before Terry signed out, but I raised my hand and was just waiting to be called on. But I guess one of my questions is in regards to those 5 companies or the names that she mentioned. Are those 5 companies members of the CES program, the Cooperative Educational Services, which I believe the Cobre School District is a member of?
Yes,
And
they are, George, and they're also members of the New Mexico School Boards Association.
so those 5 companies that Miss Holguin mentioned, those are the only 5 that are listed within, that are approved via the CES process?
Right now, I think that is. I'm not sure, but I think that is.
Okay, and then I guess my follow-up question is in regards to the procurement of a search company. I think Miss Ms. Holguin mentioned a threshold of $10,000. So anything under that, probably has its own procurement process. But if via change orders or changes in scope of work kick it above the $10,000, do you then at that point in time need to stop and then follow the next procurement process?
Yes, that's what we need to do. And $10,000 is not a set thing in stone. That was just a figure that was given to us by Dr. Faber, who came in and did that presentation a while back.
So is the Cobre, what is your threshold in regards to being able to sole source versus having to get the 3 written quotes versus having the actual advertised for professional services? I'm assuming that there's those 3 different amounts that kick it into each category.
That's why we tried to reach out to them and see what they would kind of give us an estimate of what they would charge. But as to this point right now, they haven't responded.
So you guys are in the process of requesting 3 written quotes at this point in time?
From those companies that do the superintendent search, yes.
So is that document that's being provided to each of the companies available to the public for viewing as well, if we were to request such document from the administration office?
I believe Terry was the one that did the reaching out to those companies. Am I correct?
Terry did, but she did say she has not spoken to Tom Sullivan or Gloria Lee.
No, but I guess my question is, in order to compare apples to apples, each company that's being contacted should be provided something in writing as to this is what the Cobre Consolidated School District is looking for, and these are the services, rather than them being done verbally. They should be submitted in writing to each of the companies so that, again, there is no, well, we understood it this way versus we understood it this way. I mean, it's clearly there in writing as to what the requirements are, and it doesn't appear that that's being done at this point in time.
Yes, Melissa.
So, as in my experience with this, we have not gone out to request for proposal because it's not over the $60,000. So it's under that threshold. The process that Mr. Esqueda is explaining is like that scope of work and advertising it in the paper. So it's the one below it, and I'm not sure what those formal processes are, but that's why nothing has been sent out formally for the request for proposals, because that's the $60,000.
It isn't.
No, and I understand that process, but even when if anything under $60,000 and you're requesting a quote from a company, it should be done in writing, providing them some sort of scope of work, so that each company that's providing you a fee or a dollar amount, they're providing you that dollar amount based on the same information. So again, it should be done in writing.
Has it this time?
Yeah.
Mr. President?
Yes.
George, to answer your question, we are not going for, and to reference to what you said, we are not going for a request for proposals. It is going to be less than that. But I agree completely that, I further state that I know of no documentation that we put together for somebody to solicit any kind of interest in providing that service. I know of no documentation that we've submitted that sets any criteria for the performance of that, other than the general statement of conducting a search for a superintendent, which is pretty descriptive. It's not to say that's not descriptive, but we have not established a scope. We have not established a standard that we're looking for, and if we're going to wait for a committee to establish that, we haven't established a committee either. So, in response to what you're asking is, you're kind of asking to what proactive steps we've taken And they are none. This is a selection by acquaintance. This is not one that is opening up for any wider interest. And then constraining our process to the limits of those people that we contacted for their interest. And I think that circumvents what it is we're supposed to do. We should be looking at a committee already to establish that and get our criteria in place. And we should be offering a standard form of criteria for people to express their interest in providing that service.
Okay. Well, that's something that we probably need to get together and do.
It's on the agenda now.
So it was.
No, and you know, and excuse me, but you know, I agree with Mr. Udiana, and it just seems like, you know, and again, you know, so certainly not intending this to be in a disrespectful way, but you know, Mr. Mendoza announced his retirement, you know, a couple of months ago, you know, and it's kind of maybe disheartening to the fact that that you guys or the district isn't further along in regards to, you know, whether advertising or the search committee or things of that nature. And it just seems like if things are continuing to be drug out. And again, that's just my personal comment. Again, not reflected to any one individual or, you know, intended to be disrespectful in any way.
Well, we had Dr. Faber come in here, and it was an action item to get him to start doing the thing. It was an action item at that time. The board decided not to go that way. They wanted some more proposals, and that's where we're at right now, waiting for those people to give us another proposal. As of right now, the only one that has done any proposals for the search is Dr. Faber. And saying by acquaintances, I know all of them. I know Gloria Zendon, I know the other people there.
The point is,
And they have not submitted anything that they are interested in doing it.
the point is, we can't say we are contacting the people that are available because there's no public announcement, there's no public criteria, there isn't anything other than word of mouth, and that is not within the procurement procedures for making that kind of contract.
Well, that's something that we probably need to get with Terry and see what kind of paperwork she submitted to them, and then go from there.
You know, and again, from somebody who's been listening into almost all your guys' meetings since the beginning of the year, I mean, it seems that seems to be the pattern, that there is no documentation to fall back on in regards to what's really going on. It just appears that, well, this is what we're going to do, and you know, there is nothing, or at least from what I can tell, looking from the outside in, that you as a board aren't provided all the information in order to make a good decision in advance. So it's, again, that's my point is that, you know, it appears that if you're going to be talking to different companies, there needs to be something in writing in terms of scope of work. You know, and when I say a company, yeah, I'm talking about the search company, but it appears that there should be something in writing that all of you guys as a board, as well as the other members of the administration, agree upon, and that if the public requests that information, that they could be provided that, rather than, well, we don't have it, or we got to find it, you know, because again, from somebody who's requested quite a bit of information now, it takes it takes a long time to get that information from the administration, and that shouldn't be the case.
And one more comment, and that is your comment that it is being made within the realm of the people you know is very bothersome, because it's not expanding outside of that realm. That is clearly something that jeopardizes our search. It is clearly something that overextends any board member's authority.
Are there other people out there that belong to CES or the New Mexico School Board Association that does this job?
I don't know. And can you say for sure? You don't, you know? The CES is one thing, that's for sure, that's a finite number. And, but why aren't we advertising this on a larger scale? And the information that we got on CES, the information we got on CES was not proposals. It was just a verbal discussion.
And this is where I think we need to get Terry in and visit with us here, that what kind of paperwork did she send to them? We instructed her to contact them and see if they were interested in doing the superintendent search.
It was my understanding, and Mr. President, I may be wrong, but it was my understanding that Terry's task was to find out who else besides Dr. Prather and Mr. Shirley did this type of work for New Mexico. And so what she presented to us is that there are 5 people in New Mexico that do this. And again, I may be wrong, I have to go back and visit the minutes, but that was my understanding, was just to find out who else is out there.
Yeah, who else is out there and if any of them were interested.
And we do that by sending a person to go rattle on doors? We do that by a public announcement that solicits.
It was at a public meeting, in one of our meetings. And if we look back at the minutes, it is there.
That's not a public.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to just ask really quickly, because there's headhunter organizations out there that can do specialty work, like whether you're looking for superintendents or people at the university level or whatever level, and what specifications. So you guys might want to look on some of that stuff that maybe higher ed and others use when they're looking other schools to hire superintendents, because you guys have most of the time that I've known have always hired doctorate level. And so the headhunters and those kind of organizations, they will have that information in their publications at that level, because I know that that was how one of the ways that Dr. Mendoza knew about us is because of our information in one of those professional journals that went through a headhunter, because he and I had talked.
We didn't go through no headhunter before.
Well, something must have been in a professional public publication that goes through that
the
level.
Through the New Mexico School Boards Association.
So they're the ones that do that. They're the ones that have put that information out.
It's more of the broader point that there are educational associations that have the people that would be very good candidates, that we should be extending our contacts with, so that we could get the best qualified person for the job.
And that's what we need. And that's why I say right now we're in the middle of a cycle, and those that are out there right now are probably some of the people that were left over that probably nobody wanted to pick up. And so that's kind of where we are, and that's why we're in the middle of a cycle. Go ahead.
Miss Holguin's back. If you need to ask her.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think there was questions for Terry on what was given to.
I don't hear. Okay.
Was there somebody there?
No, do you guys have anything for Miss Holguin? She's on.
The question was George Esqueda's, and I don't remember it exactly. So if George is there and he can ask it now.
Gary?
I guess. I guess Ms. Holguin, my question was earlier in regards to the 5 companies that you contacted, if they were all members of the Cooperative Educational Services program, or if there are other companies within the CES program that could also be contacted. And as a follow-up question, if the contact that was made with Mr. Prather or any of the other companies, if there is a written document kind of outlining the scope of work, or a timeline or anything like that. So again, part 1 of the question is the Cooperative Educational Services System, and then part 2 was if there was any kind of written document that was provided to any of those companies.
We haven't gone out to seek any proposals. The only thing we have is information. The only one that has provided a proposal and did a presentation to the board was Dr. Prather and Mr. Shirley. They are not companies, they are individual consultants. So they work on an individual basis. They are not companies. They are retired superintendents that provide a service through the New Mexico School Boards Association. So the best place would be to contact the New Mexico School Boards Association because they are all 5 associated with the New Mexico School Boards Association. But no, all we have is we've gathered information, but no, we haven't submitted a scope of work. The information that we have and the only proposal that we have was from Dr. Prather and Mr. Shirley.
Well, I guess, and again, I'm certainly not trying to be disrespectful or confrontational or anything like that, but you just mentioned that you did receive a proposal from Mr. Prather, so that kind of contradicts your earlier statement that proposals have not been requested. So again, I'm just trying to educate myself, trying to get a better handle. So how was Mr. Prather? How I believe the number he had thrown out was $10,000. So he had to have thrown out that number based on some kind of description of work or scope of work. So again, that's all my question is if something's been provided in writing to all 5 individuals.
These people that do that, the 5 people have already got some kind of an idea as to how much money they need to spend and do things like this because they've been doing it for quite a while. I know that Ms. Rendon has been doing it for quite a while also.
I think, Mr. Esqueda, what you're asking is that if they provided a proposal, all they did was provide a presentation, and it did include a cost on their presentation. I wasn't involved in them doing the presentation. That was done by contact, I think, through the New Mexico School Boards Association. As information and with a cost as to what their service would be if they were to provide that service. So no, we didn't go out to Dr. Prather and ask him how much it would cost. I think that was done through the New Mexico School Boards Association just to get a benchmark as to relatively what a service like this would cost.
Clarify on that, the presentation was made as an action item that we would have voted on and that we would have contracted for those services, not having described a scope of work, not having specified or solicited any other proposals. And that was one meeting that I attended late, and I was very grateful that Gabe spoke up and said that was a selection that was made without any other consideration. And I really think the board is not engaged in it to its full extent. It's deferring its searches to staff. We're not saying the board's not involved in stipulating how we're going to disseminate this information to get the best candidates. The board's not involved in setting up the criteria that we're looking for.
But that's what one of these companies does. We said when we hire this company, we tell them, and that's where I say, then we need to get together with the staff, with community members, with all of those, and see what is it that we want in the superintendent that comes to this community, and then we give that to the person that's going to do the search for us, and they will bring us the people that we said this is what we want that meet that criteria.
There's a lot of that I agree that can be an appropriate time for that, but for the actual selection,
Yeah,
Excuse me.
and they do the advertising also.
But for the actual selecting of that company that's going to do that, we need to prescribe what it is we expect of them in terms of the
Yes,
outreach.
yes.
But we're not doing that.
Mr. President, if I may, cancer prevention is what the county cure. Your procurement laws in the state set a minimum floor. But for the security of your decision ultimately, so that it's not litigated in a failed search, but also for the board's ease and peace of mind, if you follow the procedures that I believe his name was George suggested, which is to be a very specific written scope of work, that way you're dealing with everybody equally and you won't have a claim of discrimination. They're so common these days. Some of them are true, some of them are not. And a public announcement will also protect you because there are going to be others from Arizona or anywhere in the country that would like to come here, but they won't have learned of the opportunity, and all they have to do is hire a labor lawyer and say your search was bad, and your district attorney, super, will say, scrap the search. So I'm suggesting that there are very good ideas here. If you take them, it will be in your interest, I think, and you'll get the best clean search, and you'll have your superintendent.
Well, that's something that we need to probably get together and do and see what is it that we want. So now we're doing part of the job of the person that we hired to do.
In a sense, but you don't know who the hire will be. And
No,
you wanna
we
be
don't.
clean. You
We
wanna
don't,
be clean.
because we haven't made that decision.
Right. But so as to not prevent that being part of the search that's compromised, you find your consultant by an open and public process.
If you'd have been here when Dr. Praver gave that presentation, and I'm not saying that he's the one that we're gonna hire, okay? He explained exactly what his company does. And that was one of the things. He will sit up and come to the community and get people to be on the committee when the applications start coming in, to screen those applications as to who will be the best fit for the community. That's part of the job that he does. And he will come in and we give him names, or he can go around the community and say who wants to be on this committee. I don't know how he does it, but he sets up the committee of administrators, teachers, community members, students, all of that. He sets all of that up and goes through them, and they screen the applications. Then, and us as a board will tell him, we want the top 3, we want the top 2, whatever we want there, and he will bring those applications to us. Then we make the selection.
And substantively, that makes perfect sense. But procedurally, you want to make sure you get the consultant by the proper process. That way you don't taint the substance and wind up with a failed search at the expense of whatever you've shelled out.
Yeah. To run that as an example, it would be like, say we have 5 people interested, and some people that would have applied to it if they would have known.
That's the key.
They can come up and they can say, you guys went out and you selected somebody without giving anybody else an opportunity because you made one-to-one contact. You didn't describe what it is that's necessary to make a decision, and they can challenge our hiring of a contractor because we did not go through the part of putting a standard expectation for the proposals that these guys are going to bring. This doesn't include hiring the superintendent. This means what it is, the process that they're going to use, what resources they're going to use, what timeline they're going to do. It has nothing to do with interviewing the superintendent. It has to do with how he's going to solicit applications.
Well, that's one of the things that he also said in his presentation, that he will set a timeline as to when he expects this, and this to happen.
And if you hire him to do that, there's maybe another contractor that says, that guy was given inside information. He had direct line to the president of the board, or direct communications with staff from Cobre, and they gave him the criteria that he built the proposal for. I had no chance to apply. I'm a contractor. I have a right to public contracts and to compete for public contracts. And then we end up either having to pay the guy and then putting it out for bid again, or for solicitations, or we end up losing the superintendent.
Let me tell you, Mr. Williana, you're one that is always complaining that we're spending too much money here and there. And if we go outside and like we said, headhunters and those, I'm gonna guarantee you, they are nowhere near $10,000.
It would be our choice then to choose whatever is fiscally responsible for us to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that we're gonna have to hire the highest, the best paid one in the country.
Yeah.
That's our choice. We can choose, and I will be frugal in that.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you that we need to move on. But this thing here, we need to get with Terry and we need to set up another meeting to get this thing going.
I guess,
See, so that
Mr.
we
Board
can
President,
sit down.
Mr. Board
so that
President,
we
quick
can-
quick question, for those of us that are listening in, can you please, announce the gentleman's name that was speaking a little bit ago? For the record?
I'm Bill Bradford, Chiricahua Apache Nation.
He's
I'm
our
sorry, I
attorney
couldn't catch that.
Bill Bradford.
Okay.
He's of the
Yeah, 'cause I guess,
Chiricahua Apache Nation. He's our
Okay.
Attorney General.
Okay.
For who?
No, I appreciate that because I do believe,
Our tribe.
he and I are pretty much on the same page, and again, realizing that there's two separate processes here. One is the selection of the individual or the company that's gonna assist the district with hiring of the superintendent, and then the second process is the actual evaluation of those applications. So again, two separate processes, but again, thank you for the clarification on who was speaking. Thank you.
And then we would have had to have our attorney here also.
No, he's here for the powwow.
Oh,
Yes, continue to speak. We need to
okay.
move on.
So for this one here, we'll need to announce to have another meeting, and we'll set up another meeting and contact some community members to be here and work up part of the job that whoever we hire is going to do.
Will that be part of the next meeting agenda or special meeting?
I don't know exactly when we can all, but I say that we all need to be here so that we can set those things up, because if we're missing one or we're missing two people, then they come back and say, no, well, this, and this, and we're not on the same page again. And that's what's been happening. We're always missing somebody or one thing or another, and we can't. So we need to, I'll need to contact all board members and find out what day we're gonna do it, Joyce. Thank you. Okay. And this moves us, again, we pretty much discussed this already, to item 4, public input in reference to our agenda. George?
Yes, Mr. Board President, again, thank you again. Just a comment in regards to the agenda items, kind of going back under item I, or item 1, the introduction. I was wondering, I see where you approved the board minutes of June 24th and the 29th, but wondering if the minutes of your June 15th meeting are going to be at a later date, or if they were just inadvertently omitted from this meeting, or had they been previously reviewed and approved?
Previously approved. I think those were approved on the 24th.
No, sir, because I'm looking at the agenda of your Thursday, June 24th meeting, and it does not have anything on there about your June 15th meeting minutes. So it appears that those have been overlooked.
I don't know.
We'll look into it and put them on the next board meeting agenda.
They'll be on the next one, George.
Okay, thank you. So I guess item number 2 in regards to the agenda, again, and this goes back to some emails that I've submitted in regards to, in particular this agenda, item number 8, executive session. I'm still of the opinion that there needs to be another line item where you take action on the items that were discussed in executive session, because right now you have a action item under your executive session agenda item, which again, you can't do at this point in time. So again, it comes back to the way the agenda is presented. And again, I don't know if you or anybody within the administration has contacted anybody for a legal opinion, if this is the way you have it, if it's procedurally acceptable.
That we will open back up and vote on what we discussed in executive session, which was approval of the interim superintendent contract.
No, I understand that, but again, that item B is under item 8 of the agenda. So what I'm saying is, you should have an item 9 with an item A, approval of the interim superintendent contract, and then maybe item number 10 being items for next agenda. And again, that's just my observation based on a number of meetings that whether council meetings, commission meetings, other board meetings. But again, I just wanted to put that out there and see if you've consulted with anybody and gone clear direction on that.
I can contact some folks and see, but to me, that's the way it goes, because item A is that we're gonna discuss superintendent contract, and then we come back out and open and vote on the contract.
Okay, well, again, if somebody can look into it, again, just reiterating what I've stated in the past. But again, those are my 2 items, and with that, I want to thank you for your time.
And Mr. President, on that item, he's exactly right, and I actually had thought about mentioning it, but I was caught up in a phone call, I guess, at the beginning of the meeting. We have that under executive session, the way we put it. I understand, I understand, but if we would have somebody to look at this and say, hey, wait a minute, it's an open meeting, we're gonna reopen the meeting, which is what you wanna do, and then we're gonna take that action in an open meeting.
Yep.
But we list it under executive session.
It should be.
We should, what he said clearly is the number 9 should move down the item for next agenda. Number 9 should have been return to open session, approve or take action on approval of a interim contract or interim superintendent contract. That's, we've had a few weeks of these type of errors, and it's continuing. And
Well, Mr. Board President, if you'd like, I can forward my email again to not only you, but Ms. Varela, as well as the board members. Again, based on what I've seen and what my recommendation would be, and if you guys would like, I can do that again. But again, the way it's written right now, I don't think you can take action under item number 8 on the agenda.
But that tells you that we're not taking action because we say we're opening the meeting again. So we're not taking action in executive session. We open the meeting and then we take the action. That would just be another item there that we can do it for the next agenda, but this one will have to be there because this one has already been posted.
I'd be happy to review the agendas so we won't have to do this during the meeting.
We can do that too if you want to. Okay. Any other public input in reference to our agenda?
Mr. President, do you want the agenda sent to all board members before it's finalized?
That would be a good idea.
But that means another trip. That would mean that we would have to come in. Well, the agenda is posted anyway. They can review it ahead of time look at it and then make their
We
comments.
can still make changes because it's.
Yeah,
prior
make
to
their
the
comments
other
as it is, because it is posted. So
But-
we would not have to put this and have them run around and hand everybody an agenda, because it is posted. They can look at it and say that this is not the way it should be here or something, and then change it. Before it goes to press, but it is posted.
It's not posted before it goes to press, I don't think.
No, no.
We don't get it before it goes to press.
No.
What Joyce is suggesting is that
But
send it
that's
to
why I
us.
say they can look at it
If
once
you-
it's
If we
it's
look
done.
at it once it's been posted, then we can't change it. And so we'll come to the board meeting and we'll say, okay, this, we
No.
can't
No,
discuss it.
I'm saying that it will be there on the webpage that they can look at.
But if it's
And-
wrong, it's gonna stay wrong.
No.
Yeah, you can't, you
Before
can't
it
do
said-
that.
Before,
You can't do that. If you're gonna post the agenda like that, then that's the agenda you need to go by. And again, it needs to be posted 72 hours prior to the
I'm not
meeting,
saying-
and you
I'm not
can't
saying-
amend the agenda to add action items to it.
what I'm saying is that it'll be available that they can look at on the Cobre webpage. That, I guess I put the wrong word in there saying posted, but it should be on the Cobre webpage that they can look at. But then you put it there and everybody else sees it and they think that is the correct agenda before it's being posted. So now we gotta have somebody run around and hand an agenda like they do our board packets.
No, I think you're overcomplicating the process. It's just again a matter of when you list it on the website, just to put it as draft, and the final agenda gets posted 72 hours prior to the meeting.
If the
Something
board,
like that.
if the board members would have received this, say, 4 days before the meeting, and we could have caught it and said, hey, move this bullet B into the open session part of it. Don't just say
received it-
open
We
session.
received it on Thursday.
Yep.
And when is it posted?
72 hours before the meeting.
So, when we received it on Thursday? Okay, either way, I've never seen that I had the option to say, hey, correct this before. And I will do that if I get it early enough, and I'll pay attention to it if I get it early enough. And that's really what we're talking about, is keep it constrained within the board.
Okay.
And we will avoid this kind of procedural process that we shouldn't be doing after so many years of being on a board.
Right, next. Any other public input? In reference to our agenda. Administration.
Okay, Mr. President, under item 8, we have a request for use of facilities by the Red Paint Powwow. They are asking for use of the Cobre High School football field. And we do have members here who would like to speak to this.
Bill. Come along. So you don't go in front of it. Just right there. You're gonna have to talk loud, Joe. I can't hear you. So that means they can't hear you.
Good evening, gentlemen.
If you get close to this mic, that way people out there.
Stand there, right here as well.
Okay.
Well, good evening, gentlemen. My name is Joe Sines. I'm one of the council members for the Chiricahua Apache Nation. We have in the past hosted the Red Paint Powwow for 9 years in Silver City, and we decided to stop it to just be able to reorganize ourselves and come back a little bit stronger. So we decided to start again. Our initial efforts was to hold powwow at Fort Bayard with the community efforts that are happening with Fort Bayard and Santa Clara. But it's going to be a slow start with Fort Bayard, and so we are anxious to start this event again for the community and the county. And in considering an option for a location, I thought that Bayard would be a good option because of the location and the access to the highway. We thought that Cobre School would be an ideal location. And so we're requesting that you guys consider allowing us to hold this event at Cobre High School Stadium.
So we did talk extensively when Mr. Sines came in to meet with me. The only people that would be on the actual field itself would be the dancers and the drummers, and they all wear moccasins. So there would be no heels or any type of shoe like that on the field. They do want to have vendors, and so what I shared with Mr. Sines and Ms. Gonzalez is that pending approval of the board, then we would do a walkthrough with myself, Mr. Peru, and Ms. Montoya, so that we could kind of see where the vendors would be located, because they would not be within the football field. So, and then, you know, another question for the board is in looking at the paperwork. We did discuss the fact that we would have to have at least one custodian on standby, so they would need to pay for that. The question that I have for the board too, if it's approved, is that it does state in the application that use of the high school stadium is a $315 hourly rate. So we kind of needed to clarify that based on the use of facilities function.
I don't remember doing where, I don't know, maybe why did we put that?
Obstruction / interference during fights?
Yes, so if there's a fight and students block where we can go in to break up the fight, then they get disciplined as well.
Okay, but if a person tries to break up the fights, that's not,
Yeah.
that's when, okay. Okay, I didn't understand what that meant. That's it, thank you.
I recommend approval of the Cobre High School handbook as presented by Ms. Montoya.
You heard the recommendation, do I hear motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Guadiana. Any other questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, Snell handbook, I'm going to get Mr. Avalos on the phone. Hello, Mr. Avalos. We have you on speakerphone. We just moved over to your item, so we are on Snell handbook.
Okay. Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Let the start here in Grand County coming at us. Do you have any questions?
Any questions on the handbook for Snell?
The COVID restrictions are there? Like saying students will be allowed to remove their masks during breakfast and lunch for the periods of when eating. So are we requiring them to wear?
So, at this time, we do not know what the requirements are going to be. We are still waiting for the state to put out their toolkit. So until we get that toolkit from them, the new one, we're still under the old guidelines.
But did I miss that in the other policies then, the high school and the elementary?
I think some of them just put here that,
We have to,
that they were going to be following the reentry, like the elementary one on the front page says they're
Yeah.
gonna follow the Cobre reentry, and our reentry will be based on, the state toolkit.
If I could comment on that real quick, to this year, we still have, it's official work from the state department, whether or not, what the restrictions are gonna be, what are the procedures. So, you know, we need to move forward with this, but in the sense that, we may have to pull down, some of the more specifics, that may come along or may be removed. That, if you notice that, they're highlighted, the reasons are highlighted on the handbook is because, to the fact that, we may have to move on those and change those based on, what the decision comes down here and that hopefully will arrive soon.
And I think based on the way that Mr. Avalos has this worded, it just says COVID-19 face coverings are subject to standard guidelines, so this isn't saying students are required to wear them. It's just saying based on COVID-19, then they have to follow these guidelines for the face mask.
yeah, but the inference with that is that they.
Right, that you
they
are
have-
wearing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And another, not a concern actually, on page 33, there's the expulsion procedures, and it talks about the board's role in that process, and it also outlines the parents' venue for appealing that or bringing it to a hearing. I don't see that in any of the other policies, and I think it would be a good thing to have in all three policies.
It's at the end of the high schools,
Is it?
yes.
I just looked at the elementary one and it wasn't there.
Okay, it's not in there, Mr. Guadiana, on the elementary one.
Okay.
Oh, I have no internet.
So we can get it added to the elementary one if that's what the board chooses to do. Any other questions for Mr. Avalos? For Mr. Avalos? So I recommend approval of the Snell handbook.
You heard the recommendation, do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Any other questions? Call for the vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, Mr. Avalos, I'm gonna hang up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Pat. Mr. Avalos.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the athletic handbook, Ms. Montoya.
Good evening. There were no changes done to the athletic handbook since we were in a weird situation this year, so we couldn't see if what we had from the previous year actually really worked, so we didn't make any changes to the athletic handbook.
Okay,
And again, I recommend approval of the athletic handbook.
you heard the recommendation, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Avalos. Mr. Guadiana. I was still thinking of Pat. Any other comments?
Yes, I got a question. Is that gonna be enforced? You know, there's been years that I've come to.
Who's talking? I can't see.
Mr. Holguin.
Albert,
Oh, okay.
there's been times that I've been at a football game and the coaches are cussing up a storm, the ones that are up on top. I mean, it's embarrassing to hear them cussing the way they do, and I don't think that's needed. I know that they also cuss at the kids. You know, if cussing is gonna be punished, it should go both ways, not just the kids, coaches too, because there's no need for that.
So we need, people to bring that to our attention, cause we're, like at football games, I know I'm running back and forth to help with security, so I'm not where the coaches, but none of the students have ever came to us. So if they come, then we will deal with it.
Okay.
Any other comments? Call for the vote, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, item H is increased athletic house fee, Ms. Montoya.
So we found out that our minimum wage, let me pull it up because I don't know it off the top of my head. That the minimum wage has been increased or is gonna be increasing. So in order to make enough money to help pay gate fees, all the workers, the officials, and everything like that, we have decided, we have been contacted.
Don't match the expenses
Correct.
of just the regular ticket sales.
Yeah, and this year was really hard on us because of the fact we weren't allowed to have fans.
Mm-hmm. So if you're using that as a measurement, then how about before?
Before we kind of, well, no, we still struggled. Cause we also help pay for the meals and everything else out of that fund. So it encompasses, the athletic fund encompasses not only the officials, but it also includes the gate works.
So item I is, just a discussion on board retreat. Mr. Sepulveda, you wanna start off talking about what you were thinking, and then I will, continue from there?
Yes. The other day that I came in, they were talking about the CARES Act, which has goals tied to it, and we have, I don't know, what is it, Joyce, about $3 million in?
1.9 million.
$1.9 million in CARES Act money. And there's goals